Hi, it's Kevin Main, the Phocuswire Studio, joined again by Anthony Collias.
You can't get
You're
rid of
the
me.
Chief Commercial Officer, indeed, and the co-founder at Stasher. So we spoke at Phocuswright Europe 18 months ago,
Yep.
19 months ago. We know a lot about the business, our audience knows a lot about the business, but 18 months in the life of a startup can actually sometimes feel like 18 years. So give us a sense of what the last 18 months have been. Better, worse, about the same initially?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're extremely proud of what we achieved in the last 18 months. A lot of what we stated we were setting out to do, such as launching America, launching Australia, are things that we have achieved. We've scaled our team pretty significantly to 20 now. And we also brought on some really great strategic investors in that intervening period. So I mentioned on the stage, but brought on board ex-C-suite from hotels.com, venture arm with Telefonica. It was great.
Okay, so it kind of all been just wonderful for 18 months, maybe it has been, but I mean, so I think it's always very useful for the startups that are watching to kind of get some, especially the earlier ones, to get an idea of some of the, because you're a few years in now.
Yeah.
What kind of obstacles that you have faced that you've kind of worked hard, you've got over it?
Yeah. I think probably the biggest misconception that a lot of people have about the startup journey is that, and even as a founder, I'm very optimistic, I focus on the good stuff. And I think about we were here and we were here.
I'm a journalist and we focus on the bad stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think about we were here, and I get excited about that. But the truth is, the path is something like that, right? I mean, we've had some difficulties in growing that team. So first of all, particularly in London, finding the best developers possible. I mean, it's such a fiercely competitive market. It's an issue that so many people have, and it's not helped by current political climate in the UK. But overall, it's still a great place to be for a startup. I think other issues that we've had. God, I actually as a founder, I'm so biased by the
that must
good
be
stuff.
a good thing. Okay, right. So, what resistance do you get with the growth of the business in terms of operating and expanding and stuff like that? Maybe resistance is the wrong word, but I mean, how has that kind of gone? Because you've been fairly aggressive with your growth, with the expansion of the business.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've learned, and this kind of relates to that previous point that we made, is that it's really important to remember that we are a tech business that happens to store bags, not a luggage storage business that has a website. Right. So that also means that we don't just invest in the user interface for our customers. We also really need to invest in the user interface for hosts, and we really need to invest in our internal product so that we can actually make the operations team that we have as efficient as possible. You can't just kind of throw people at problems. That's not a sustainable way of dealing with it.
Right.
And I specifically mentioned the host product because there was another platform pitching today. Like it's no longer a viable proposition to the hosts to say, we open this path for you to make extra money. We have to say we're the best platform to work with and explain why.
Do you insist on exclusivity then, based on what you said that there is? So
it's really important that with key supply, like Premier Inns, yes, exclusive. As many of the hotel chains or hostel chains as possible. We don't want to deal with like little franchisees and managers of individual hotels. We want to deal with central offices, regional offices, and have agreements with their innovation team, growth team, ancillary revenue teams. In reality, for smaller independents, it can be hard to police. And I think that's something that all the other platforms will probably, in candidness, share with you. But it is something that you should do your best to try and push. Yeah,
I think something that, and I'll have to go back and watch the previous interview, but either I thought of it afterwards or we did discuss it. But I mean, how do you police it? Because it could be watertight, or it could be almost like a bit Wild Westian in a way, couldn't it?
So, like I was saying, the most important hosts, who are those quality branded hotels, actually they follow set processes. Like if you have a contract that says exclusivity, and it's normal to have a contract when you're operating with a business like that, they will adhere to that. So that's not really so much of a concern. Not to mention the fact that, take the example of Premier Inn, if we're working with their head office and they're disseminating information from that central point to all of their hotels, actually there's a big barrier to just adding extra information, right? Or even if they decided to, adding extra processes on top of what they've already kind of spread to 200 different places.
Okay.
So there's kind of a natural switching cost.
Okay, and a couple more points then before we wrap up, Anthony. I mean, sales, and marketing in particular, how do you find the best kind of customer acquisition routes and things like that? And how has that evolved over time, or is it more of a wherever you are, it changes for the type of channel that you use?
Okay, so it has to be a little opportunistic, and in honesty, can't give away too much of the secret recipe.
No.
But I said on stage, and it's extremely true. A really important channel for us is partnering with travel businesses, because the thing that I always say is that travel is so time sensitive. If you go out onto the street and offered people, free luggage storage, free rental car, free Airbnb, the majority of people are going to say, it's cool, but I don't need that right now, right? But all of these travel businesses have customers who are likely to have that same pain, that same need, like sequentially from one another. That's why when you try to book an airline, you're bombarded with, book hotel, book rental cars, right? Because it's that time, it's that point of need, and it's sporadic otherwise.
So with that in mind then, Anthony, is it almost like a lot of educating still needs to be going on to get yourself into the mindset of part of that portfolio of ancillary products, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of education on our part as a business. That's part of the reason we come here, to learn more about the travel space. I think there's also a lot of education for customers, right? So we reach customers through these channels, which is very, it's very direct. We reach customers through direct search and similar stuff. But there's a whole set of customers who may not be immediately referred by a partner, have the need, and don't even think to look, because they just assume that reasonable alternatives don't exist. The thing that we always say is that actually our service is kind of akin to Airbnb or Uber in that, like, in terms of convenience and price, it's so much lower that it opens whole new use cases that you would never use otherwise. Right? I mean, like, I order an Uber now all the time when I never would have called a mini cab, 5 or 10 years ago, because it would have been too expensive and too inconvenient and too slow.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you very much again for joining us, Anthony.
No problem.
We'll
Thanks.
see you in 18 months maybe.
Yeah,
Thank
probably.
You. Okay.